A new YouGov poll has found that the Tories are facing a 1997-style electoral wipeout with 11 cabinet ministers at risk of losing their seats. It would be a landslide for Labour. And I shall just have a little look here at what the Telegraph is telling us. So here we have the classic cliff-top situation for the Conservative Party looking over the edge. Are the Tories on the cliff edge? We're asking. We always explain jokes here. So that's the Tory party up there, and that's the cliff. All right. And this comes from the Telegraph. A poll, 14,000 people, polled by YouGov, and they say the Tories will retain 169 seats and Labour will have 385. That gives them a stonking 120-seat majority, half as much again as Boris Johnson got, 120. Every red wall seat won from Labour by Boris Johnson in 2019 will be lost, so the red wall being rebuilt by Labour. And cabinet ministers like Jeremy Hunt losing their seats. I beg your pardon, he says. That's true. That's what it says. And Reform UK taking lumps out of the Conservatives in their own seats, although probably not winning anything. So these two elections, 5 years apart. 2019, the Boris Johnson victory, how long ago that seems, and then possibly 2024. Two things I want to point out to you in this projected result. Obviously, a lot can change between now and election day. Scotland, Labour seats back in Scotland, and the red wall, Labour taking a lot of seats back in their heartlands that they lost because of Brexit. And that's the Tory party saying, ouch, and leaving the scene. They would, remember, it's about a 10-year rebuild if you get knocked back that far. That's what happened in 1997. Blair's landslide, 165 Conservative seats in 97. This poll says the Conservatives would leave the next election with 169. Oh, my goodness, Emily, it's a flashback to wipeout.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No. Can I just give a bit of context about this poll?
Yes.
This poll is published in the Telegraph. The Rwanda bill's coming next week. They wanted this poll to come out and make things look bad for the Tories because they want that Rwanda bill to be adjusted to be much tougher on immigration.
It doesn't
like
change.
Andrea Jenkins, you've got Lord Frost. No.
You don't understand how polls work.
You have to look deeper at the poll.
They've done a poll.
You have to look deeper at the poll.
And they got a result.
I'm about to quote Alistair Campbell.
Go on.
But look deeper at the poll. There's been a collapse in the Conservative vote. There is no surge in Labour.
True.
So that's one thing to doubt whether this poll actually means there's going to be a landslide.
We could also add...
Also, Sunak is not popular. But I'm afraid Keir Starmer's popularity ratings are also plummeting. And to quote Alistair Campbell, memo to all Labour candidates he tweeted only 2 hours ago, ignore it. There are far too many don't knows, not sures, won't votes and not registered. Fight it every day like you understand there's always a chance you could lose. Absolutely no way should Starmer be in power. This is not a vote saying that we think Labour's going to come in. We should absolutely give... You can't every time a bad poll comes out saying, oh, let's have an election.
No, but all I was saying was that people don't respond to polls because of some Rwanda vote. This is quite a substantial poll.
I'm talking about the politics behind why this poll was commissioned.
Yeah, fair enough, but it's may not be relevant.
Be aware.
All right. Matt, what do you think of it?
There's still 14,000 people.
Yeah.
And this isn't just...
I haven't seen the questions they were asked.
But also, okay, their opinions may change tomorrow. Let's start with that.
And
we know that.
This is about how an election will play out in the constituency. It is not just about, OK, the Tories are behind by 18%. That's why this matters. But Campbell is right. I think the biggest danger for Labour, and perhaps my tie gives a slight clue as to the idea of who I might want vaguely to win a general election. But Campbell is right. Big danger for Labour is complacency. It is a myth, however, that this 1997 Tony Blair New Labour landslide was built on a great surge of enthusiasm for Labour. It wasn't. It was actually about Tory vote falling away. And that looks likely, according to this poll and what else we know, to be repeated this year. Something that is absolutely critical, is fascinating is the Reform UK involvement. I've got to know Richard Tice a little bit by interacting him on his shows and interviewing him for my podcast. He is determined to punish the Tories. And even if I say to him, you're going to help Labour get into power, you might even give Labour a big majority, his laser-like focus is to destroy
because they're going to bring in Farage, aren't they? Isn't that what's going to happen at Reform? Suddenly say, oh, by the way, our new leader is Nigel Farage?
Well, he's president, isn't he?
He's president.
He's president already. So, yes, I can absolutely see, one just can't imagine Farage staying out of the limelight for very long. He just loves it far too much.
So you think if the poll is true, it's terrible, which is not true, and you think the poll might be true, but Labour mustn't be complacent?
Just remember that...
I just think you've got to look at polls a lot harder than just reading the top line that the Daily Telegraph want to run. Because
just remember that the hill that Labour has to climb still, in order to get a majority of one, it has to achieve a bigger swing, as I understand it, that Tony Blair achieved in 1997. We saw that picture of Boris Johnson in your graphic getting all excited. Yeah. I mean, almost the whole country looked like it was blue. There is an 80-seat majority, not anymore, but there was in 2019 to overturn.
All right.
And that's big.
It's one other thing that may help the Conservatives is that the Liberal Democrats are led by Ed Davey, who was coasting along until last week when suddenly he got hammered for the post office scandal. And actually that matters because they don't have a lot of visibility. All they've got is Ed, and he's now got a problem. Christine in Hampshire, let's say this is correct, then Labour will storm it. What do you think?
Well, we definitely need a change of government, Jeremy, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't vote Labour at the moment, although I've been a Labour supporter all my life. I just don't want Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. He is literally a watered-down Tory, in my opinion. He backs everything they do in the Ukraine war, with Israel. He's become saber-rattling, just like all the others, our politicians. He could be a peacemaker, but he never talks about peace. He isn't left-wing enough for me.
Christine, hasn't he got to sort of bury the whole Corbyn thing? So he's therefore tends to be more pro-Israel than he might want to be.
But that's not standing up for your principles, is it? No. He's just weak, actually. I don't know what he's frightened of. I mean, I haven't heard him mention help for the poor people that are flooded in this country that have got no heating. He'd rather spend money on weapons and welfare. So he's a disgrace as a Labour politician.
Well, who will you vote for? You're not going to vote Conservative. You're not going to vote Keir Starmer.
No. Like my brother said, I think I would vote for Kermit, actually, because they're all Muppets.
The other Muppet. OK, thank you. Geraldine in Essex, what do you think? Labour government on the way, according to this poll?
No, I wouldn't vote for either, to be honest with you, Jeremy.
Really?
Because I used to vote Conservative, but now I don't think I can vote for them. But I can't vote for Labour because I think Keir Starmer hasn't got much. I don't feel confident.
Yeah. Would you consider voting for Reform UK or the Liberal Democrats?
Well, I'd vote for, what's her name, Anne Widdecombe, if she was to come on.
We keep getting people asking her to be Prime Minister. Every time she's on the panel, people say, Anne, get back in there. She's not standing.
I just think we haven't got anyone who's really a proper leader.
Interesting. Thank you, Geraldine. Nigel in Warwickshire. We've talked before, you're fed up with the Conservatives, even though you are one.
Yeah, it's a choice between the brainless dolphin and Dougie Smith, isn't it?
Hang on, help me, Nigel. The brainless dolphin is?
Starmer. Flip-flop, who has got no brain.
And Dougie Smith?
I mean, the focus group on Sunak was quite clear. He abstained over the kangaroo court. Well, we know the kangaroo court was a fraud, and he's spineless, gutless, useless. And actually, he's worse than useless.
But you don't like him because he got rid of your hero, Boris Johnson. Now, the question... the question... Nadine Dorris, Boris's pal, said, this poll shows we've got to get Boris back in. What do you think of that?
Well, it's obvious. He made the big decisions. He was right on the big decisions, all of them.
Brexit.
He got toppled by Cummings and, of course, Michael Gove. Et tu Gove, I say. Et tu Gove.
And Sunak as well. Thank you very much, Nigel. Always entertaining. What do you think?
There's a couple of interesting things from those calls, actually. One is that in Starmer's big early New Year speech, he was saying that we've got to battle populism, we've also got to battle apathy. And there's a lot of apathy coming through there. And that's why I think if Labour do win significantly, it's not going to be because of a surge in delight at Starmer or great faith in the Labour Party. It's going to be despair at the Conservatives. The other thing is Boris Johnson. I was not a fan of Boris Johnson in any shape or form, but he was some sort of electoral genius. He managed to knit together this incredible election-winning coalition of the traditional Tory blue, rural, home county type seats and that north.
You don't agree with that?
No, he was up against Corbyn.
But he won Mayor of London twice in a city that's Labour.
Completely different. He was up against Corbyn. We'd had 3 years of like Brexit hell with Theresa May. I think we are giving him way too much on the electoral genius.
OK, more of your calls on whether it's time for a Labour government, as a new poll suggests the Tories face electoral wipeout. We've got Cheryl. We kept you waiting. Cheryl, how are you doing?
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Borodar. So what do you think?
Before anyone puts their cross where they think it should be, have a look at Wales. It is still the third most poverty-stricken country in Europe.
Which are the other two?
I think it's Italy and...
Bulgaria?
Yes. Is it Bulgaria? I'm not sure.
So the Wales, I don't know if it is third, but I know that we've seen some bad results in the schools recently, and the NHS seems to be in a bad way too.
It's appalling here. I mean, the roads are like the English roads, which are full of potholes. But what I wanted to say was the fact that they can spend £35 on stupid 20 miles an hour, believe you me.
Yeah.
And they can't give money to our doctors.
Well, this 20-mile-an-hour thing has driven people absolutely mad. They're
bonkers.
Well, are you worried if Labour get in, it's going to be a national policy then?
I think Wales is going to still be the third poverty-stricken country.
Well, the producer, Catherine, has told me that the top three, or the bottom three, are Ukraine, Moldova and Albania.
Well, Ukraine would be now, but
you've got to take Ukraine out of it, so you might be right. Thank you, Cheryl. A warning from Wales. Matt, there we are. If you want to see Labour in government, look at Wales.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best advert, it doesn't seem, for a Labour government. I think the interesting thing about Starmer is he's in this sort of crouch position. He's in a terribly defensive position. Because he's had this whopping lead that has sustained for as long as it has, he's desperate not to do anything wrong, which is one of the reasons why, if Labour do win, it will be because Tories don't want to vote Tory, rather than because people suddenly are really excited about Labour.
Well, he doesn't want to give anyone, the Conservatives, anything to attack, does he, Emily? So, for example, he could say, look, if we get in, we're going to start edging back into the EU. That'd be classic policy.
Yeah.
But that'll be another Brexit election then, won't it, if they do that?
He's desperate for the Tories not to put clear water between him. But I do think there is a problem in that the economy is slowly getting better. Inflation is coming down. The Tories have planned two big fiscal events. We've got the budget in March, and then I think there's going to be another one, probably June. I think they're going to cut taxes. I think they're going to be able to say the economy is doing better under them.
Abolish inheritance tax?
Stay with us, don't switch to Labour. And I think at some point the problem is that compared to Tony Blair's popularity at this point, compared to Starmer's, Tony Blair was ahead in the polls on his personal popularity. Starmer is minus, I think, 16, as it was before Christmas. And I think he's going to have to come out with a bit more than these sort of rather empty. I totally understand why they're doing it, but it's not going to resonate, I don't think.
Maybe, I don't know. I think
it's quite a risk. I just think it's quite a risk.
They had a thing where in the 1991, John Smith who was then the shadow chancellor, said, this is what we're going to do when we get into power. And he put out what was called a shadow budget. And it was just shot to pieces and they lost the election. So they learned from that. Kath in West Yorkshire, hi.
Hi.
So, Labour government on the way. Your thoughts?
Well, I've remarked on one of your other programmes before, and I'll say what I said then. I wouldn't trust Labour to remove a vote of thanks, because the first thing they will do is take us back into EU.
And does that worry you, or do you think actually, the Brexit thing hasn't really worked?
Well, the Brexit hasn't. Boris Johnson got in, not a few months later, the pandemic started. He didn't really have a chance to get that Brexit working properly before the pandemic hit us, and he had to sort that. But I won't be voting Conservative either, for simple reason, I think Rishi Sunak has done an appalling job. If I vote in the next election, I'll vote Reform.
I wondered if we were heading that way. So the Farage party, right?
Yeah.
OK, thank you, Kath. And what's your constituency in West Yorkshire, Kath, by the way?
Labour.
Yeah, but which seat? Do you know what your seat's called?
Sorry?
Who's your MP?
I haven't got a clue.
That's a classic, isn't it?
Well, thing is, I live just outside Wakefield, so I'm not classed as Wakefield, but I'm classed as Hemsworth, and I don't live anywhere near Hemsworth, so I don't know who the MP is.
All right. Well, listen, you would still be Red Wall. The Red Wall is still standing in some places, right? So thank you, Kath. Nice to talk to you. Reform voter in Yorkshire. Deborah in Blackpool. Hello.
Hi.
You've got some Tories up there. Do you think they're all going to lose their seats?
Yes, definitely. And I'm in Blackpool South.
Oh, yeah.
And so I have the famous Scott Benton as my MP, the one that was embroiled in the scandal with the lobbying and the gambling committee.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Yeah,
yeah.
But he's been suspended, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, we don't actually know. We sometimes get blocked when he doesn't like what the constituents say. But I'm always polite in my emails to him.
You get blocked on Twitter or whatever, do you?
Yeah. And it's just like a statement comes out from the Tory party headquarters. That's what it sounds like. But they get wiped out at the local elections, where it was split between Conservatives and Labour, and now Labour have got complete control of the local elections.
I think I think I would expect that seat would go Labour, but I don't know. He was suspended in April, Mr. Scott Benton. There's been so many MPs kicked out, suspended. Thank you, Deborah.
So many MPs kicked out and suspended, echoes of the late days of the John Major government, Tory sleaze.
But not just Tories. I mean, Corbyn, Diane Abbott. Diane Abbott's suspended. Nick Brown has left. You know, he's been around for years.
I was going to say, I mean, so many MPs going. How many prime ministers have we had since 2009?
5 in 6 years.
But since we last went to the polls, we've had Boris Johnson, we've had Liz Truss, we've had Rishi Sunak, who couldn't even win his own party's leadership. I think people are switching off. So you mentioned, Emily, that there are going to be these two new fiscal policies. I'm not sure anyone's listening anymore. OK, Derek in Northamptonshire, hi.
Oh, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. So, Derek, are we heading for a Labour government based on this poll?
I'm not sure that it will be, personally.
OK.
The reason I say that is because we know what the Tory party is like. We don't know what Labour will do if they came into power. And I think we've learned from experience that political parties don't really reveal what they're intending to do. They only reveal it once they've been voted into office.
What's the big secret he's hiding, Derek, do you think?
I don't know. It might be raising council tax. I mean, they doubled it last time Labour were in power.
Going back into the EU?
I wouldn't think that would be a good idea. I mean, it costs us a lot of money to belong to the EU. We were the third biggest contributor to it. So I think we're good to be free of that.
All right, Derek, thank you very much.